The most interesting thing in Impact this week, Nespresso becomes B Corp certified. Yes, this is that subsidiary of global conglomerate Nestle. It's that coffee that comes in beautiful, tiny single-use containers with fancy names like vanilla custard pie. It's that coffee company with the high-end stores and the beautiful coffee subscriptions and George Clooney ads. This means that B Lab, the global nonprofit network that manages these certifications, has assessed Nespresso's entire social and environmental impact and denoted it a force for good. I'm not so sure. Here's my take on this news. First off, there is no shortage of ethical scandals and questionable human rights practices of both Nespresso and its parent company, Nestle. I mean, all you have to do is start typing in Google, "Is Nestle?" and autofill does the rest for you. And the most common search is Nestle an ethical company? And there are articles, there are stories, investigations, there's even business school case studies on these scandals. There's a story even called 10 Outrageous Nestle Scandals, from the baby formula scandal of the 1970s to hoarding and siphoning water. Not sure if you know, Nestle is the largest owner of private water resources in Michigan State. Nestle Water CEO Tim Brown even said recently that if he could bottle more of California's water for profit, he would. And then there's the deforestation in Ghana. There is the greenwashing in Canada. When Nestle launched a campaign in Canada in 2008 claiming that their water bottles were all recycled, but in fact, when their corporate citizenship report was released, it said that a large number of their bottles never got recycled and actually ended up in the solid waste stream. There are loads more stories and investigations, and that's just Nestle. Nespresso's abysmal track record on human rights, from child labor and wage theft to abuse of factory workers, is well documented by the media and NGOs. So much so that with the news of Nespresso becoming B Corp certified, a group of B Corps actually signed a joint letter titled "The B Corp Standard is at Risk." So how does Nestle and Nespresso respond to these? Well, they haven't yet, and I doubt they will. Which brings me to point number 2. As part of the certification announcement, Nespresso expressed that they intend all viable farms to reach a living wage by 2030 and to improve our global approach on human rights due diligence. However, there is no way for B Lab or the certification process to measure and hold Nespresso to these self-imposed commitments. To me, this poses a critical question about the role of B Corp certification in the transition from the old extractive economy to the new, just, and sustainable economy. Is B Corp certification primarily to improve the image of old businesses of the old economy, which remain built to extract and deliver maximum financial value for stakeholders and shareholders? Or is it to foster businesses of the new economy, built to generate as many social and ecological benefits as possible? In other words, is B Corp status about being a force for less bad or a force for good? Which brings me to my last point. The thing is, within Nestle, with a profit margin of about 25%, Nespresso is a star performer, ranking highest among all of the operating segments in the global group. So there are tough questions ahead for B Lab and their assessment process. I mean, all you need to do is score a minimum of 80 out of 200 to become certified. Nespresso scraped by with a score of 84. How should Nespresso accrue and channel profits to put stakeholders first? How should Nespresso scrutinize its supply chains to ensure that they are a force for good? B Lab has a lot of work to do to update its assessments, especially ones for companies like Nespresso, whose primary impact is through its supply chains, and update B Lab's accountability standards to require such companies to report on their pricing and purchasing practices. Like a whole range of other certifications around the world, B Lab too can be swept up in the promotion of a label and certification at the expense of supporting bolder changes that go beyond its label. And B Lab too continues to grapple with deep-rooted transformation versus scaling its own certification. Listen, none of this is simple. But in seeking to transform mainstream players like Nestle and Nespresso, how can certifications maintain rigor, authenticity, and accountability? And in this journey between B Lab and Nespresso, Who ends up transforming whom? That's the most interesting thing in impact. Back to my tea.